You're listening to the Practically Pastoring Podcast, where we want to help pastors and church leaders share ideas, become better shepherds and leaders, and have a good time with friends.
Welcome back to the Practically Pastoring Podcast. My name is Frank, and it's a bit more empty today. It's just me here with my friend. Yeah, it's a bit more intimate. My buddy from Baltimore, Maryland. We got Jeff Simpson. How you doing, man?
That's how you say there's not a lot of people here when you're a pastor. It's an intimate setting.
It's an intimate setting. Oh, attendance is low? No, we have intimate worship services.
Or if you're feeling real grouchy, you say it's the remnant.
Oh, dang.
These are the real people.
That's good. Well, so Andrew, Tim, and Delmar are unavailable this week. And so me and Jeff are here, and we are
for
excited.
Totally unreasonable reasons, too.
Yeah, Jaguars winning or something. That's one.
Come on,
one of the
dude.
reasons why. Anyways,
your children, get out of here. Priorities.
Andrew's hungover. I mean, this is just all the reasons. We're starting rumors now that he's getting fired.
No. It was a lady named Andrea, not Andrew, which I know was confusing a couple episodes ago.
Yeah. But Jeff, how you doing? How was worship your church this week?
Oh, it was good. I started a class last week, so that was good on Monday night. I just got done setting up for that class this week, trying some things with the live stream, setting some tables up in the sanctuary. I've got only a couple people that recently moved from the church that wanted to be in the class, and they signed up for the class before they knew they were moving, and then they moved. So we're really trying to make the live stream work for them. So going to try something different tonight. I have that class. I'm excited about it. But yesterday was great. I was a little bit shorthanded. I'm sure big churches get shorthanded Sundays too, but in a small church, sometimes it means the pastor has to do things like mop floors right before Sunday morning and stuff like that. So, we were short in the sound booth. I think the highlight of the service for me was since we didn't have a sound person and we didn't have any singers, and it was just me singing and playing guitar, and then one other guy who has now agreed to be one of my elders, which I'm really excited about, playing cajon. The highlight of the service was my daughter sitting in the front row with her little friends, covering her ears and running back to the back of the room because the sound was too loud. So, and I don't know if you've ever experienced this. I don't think you've ever played guitar and sung, right? You've played drums, though, in church.
I played drums and then preached, yeah.
Yeah, but when you're in the front of in a small room in a church, and you can tell that the sound is too loud, but you're not sure if it's too loud to everybody else or if it's just you. So things like that, feedback like that is pretty funny when it happens. So yeah, I got a few comments after the service. Hey, it was kind of loud today, and I was like, yeah, I noticed my daughter covering her ears and running to the back of the room. So yeah, we needed some more hands on deck this week, but we were trucking along in Acts. We got to the end of Acts 11 this week. So when Barnabas goes to explore Antioch, so that was a fun time to just walk through the Bible. Something exciting that happened is we had 2 younger people visit our church, which, in a small church in an area like ours, when young people show up, it's like, oh my gosh, it's happening. You're like Michael Scott when the fire happens. So they showed up, and I was like, hey, what brought you here today? Oh, we're visiting. We've been living here in Baltimore for a few years. And they said, we used to go to an Alliance church in Tampa. And I said, oh, what? Watermark? And they said, what? And I said, I know Tommy. I worked with him when I was in high school. And they said, what? It was pretty fun. Kind of a crazy connection to make there. So, yeah, I don't know if
when someone says they went to a church in a different city and you can name the church, it's always like a boss moment.
So much clout, dude. So much clout.
I know.
Unless they're coming from there with church hurt, which I don't think was the case. Watermark's a pretty cool place, so I don't think they were coming there for church hurt. But
that's so funny.
But yeah, that was really fun. So we had a good service. I had a elder meeting right after the service, just like a stand-up meeting. We just we do tactical meetings once a month, and then I have a standing weekly prayer meeting time with the elders, but once a month or so, we'll do a tactical meeting, and once a quarter, we'll actually have a sit-down, more strategic meeting. But that was good. So, life in ministry is going well. My mother-in-law is staying with us right now. She came up to escape the did you know there's a hurricane about to hit our old our old homes. Yeah, so we're
Maybe
praying for you,
that's
Andrew and
why.
Tim. Yeah, Andrew is out right now with a drill putting plywood on his windows.
Or at Disney World.
but
he could be one of those places.
Yeah, or he could be at Disney World. Yeah, I mean, a hurricane is serious when Disney closes.
Yeah,
when they don't close,
sure.
it's probably fine.
For sure.
So yeah, my mother-in-law came up. She's going to Vermont with us in a couple weeks on vacation, and she just wanted to make sure that she didn't miss her flight, so she changed it to get here before the hurricane hit. So she's up hanging out. I think they're at like a corn maze or something today because the kids are off school.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm here at the church. What about you? How was your week?
Being in a church where there's a preaching rotation, when you get back-to-back preaching, it's kind of interesting. But the only problem is the back-to-back preaching was the end.
Like you preached 2 weeks in a row.
Right.
I mean, is that right?
Yeah, and I preached the end of one series and the beginning of a new series. So it's kind of like there's no like bridge, so I couldn't like build on everything. So I closed out our previous series and I started our new series. We're now in the book of Colossians. And this is the first time I ever had to preach a greeting. So I preached the first 2 verses in Colossians. But like basically I just did it to set up the whole book and it was cool. And I heard the service host at one of the campuses, they said, great sermon from Pastor Frank. Never thought we could get 30 minutes from 2 verses. And everyone kind of had a big laugh on that. But it was a good time. I actually, as I've been preaching, when I preach 3 times, 3 different services. And usually the first service in my mind would be the most rough, but then the second and the third service would be like the best. Like 'cause at that point, if my sermon isn't internalized by the first service, it's like the most internalized by like the third. But this is one of the few times where I felt like both sermons were pretty internalized from the beginning, and I didn't like shift anything or change anything towards the end. I did do this. Okay, actually, you're the first person I've told this to, and now everyone's listening. So,
what an honor!
I think you know this. We do preaching kind of weird. I preach at 2 different locations on the Sunday I preach, and so what I do is
you get in a car between services and go to a different spot.
So at 9 a.m. I preach at one campus, then I get in my vehicle and I drive to another campus, and then after that, 15 minutes, not even, like maybe 12 minutes.
Yeah, it's traffic really Sunday.
Yeah, it's not. Traffic isn't usually bad unless it's like weather or construction, but there wasn't on this Sunday. And then I get back in my car afterwards and then drive back to my to the first campus. And so
you do 1 and 3 at the same campus and 2 at the other one.
Correct.
Like sermon number 1, go somewhere. Sermon number 2, come back. Sermon number 3.
Correct. And and the sermon number 1 is broadcasted to the other campuses, to the other 2 campuses. So because we have 4 campuses total, that's how the math works out. So what's funny is as I pull up Sunday morning before the first service, I look at my car and my gas light comes on. And I was like, it's about 5 miles away. I'm like, okay, we are risking it today.
Dude, you need an intern for this.
For real. I've never done it. Usually I'm pretty good at like looking at my gas tank by like Friday and like, on Saturday I'll get gas. Totally like, I went to this is like getting really nerdy. I went to my first Comic-Con on Saturday morning, or Saturday during the day, and I was just in comic book world the whole day, so I didn't think about filling my car up with gas. So I risked it. I came back, and it all worked out because I think we all assume we have 30 to 50 miles when the light comes on, and I was like, I'll spend 12 miles, I'll be fine. But I felt like I was cutting it close. But yep, sermon was good. All that was fine, and I am now that evening, Sunday evening, I got to preach in the student ministry for their like big fall kickoff, and that's fun. It's just it's fun when you get to like preach differently. Like when you preach to adults, you use adult words. When you preach to students, you get to use teenage words.
Use like student words like yeet and stuff.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. I mean, I get to do stuff I don't normally do. Like I pull a kid on stage. Like there was one time where the verse of the top, like the main verse, instead of me reading it, I literally just grabbed like a 7th grade girl and I said, "Can you read this?" And then she read it and crushed it. And I was like, "This is what makes youth ministry fun. It's like there's no rule."
And then afterwards, you ask the kid like, "Hey, how was my sermon?" And they're like, "That's pretty mid."
they would say that. But yeah. So I mean, it was fun. I was exhausted. I went to bed. I slept so hard last night. So
dude, I was exhausted, and I only preached 1 time.
I would still be exhausted. So before we go any further, there's a couple of things I want to talk about. But I wanted to ask
Dude,
you,
I got two things before we move on from your experience. Number one, you know how when we watch sports now, we have all these Amazon stats of like with baseball, like they have all these cameras that can track like how far a ball goes and speed off the bat and all that cool stuff. And I was thinking when you were saying you preached 3 times and like how much better you are the third one, we should figure out a way to install some kind of camera system with like an algorithm that tracks eye contact time and see like how much more percentage of your sermon do you have eye contact in the third one as opposed to the first and the second sermon. That would be really interesting, and then he could do like a stat cast. Like a wrap-up of your Sundays. Yeah. That'd be fun. And secondly, dude, you got to get on to-do list reminders in your iPhone app and set a reminder to repeat every week on Friday afternoon, hey, fill up your gas. Well, that's what you got to do.
Yeah. StatCast would be like Frank Gill looked at his notes 25% in the third
how many
compared to 45%
in the sermon.
Or long pauses that he pretends to be dramatic, but he's actually just reading ahead or something. Yeah.
Dude, I wish there was a way to like describe, like record what happens in our brains when we're either preaching or for me leading worship. There are so many times when I've thought to myself, I am not even thinking about what I'm playing or singing right now. I'm thinking about the verbal transition like 3 verses and a chorus from now. It's just wild, like what happens after you've been doing this for a long time. Same thing with preaching. Like I'll be finishing a sentence and not thinking about what I'm saying. I'm thinking about like the transition 2 points down.
Or like there's the times where in my sermon I'm like preaching and I'm like in my mind I'm like I can't wait to get to the second point because I know that better and I know that will get a response. Or like sometimes the other things I'm thinking about while I'm preaching is like this guy who's walking down the middle aisle. Is he going to have a seat, or is he about to attack me?
Or like facial expressions, like is that their concentration face, or did I just offend them and not know it?
Or this is so niche and nuanced. I love it. Or I've looked at this person too long. They probably think I'm like angry at them. I need to look at other people. It's so funny,
dude. Yesterday in my sanctuary, there's like I don't know, 70-ish chairs, and they're roughly half and half in 2 like sections with an aisle in the middle, and it had to be more than 2/3 of people were on one side. So I was looking that direction like 80% of the sermon.
Yeah.
And I was fighting myself the whole time. Like, this person probably thinks I'm looking at them the whole sermon.
Yeah.
But I wasn't.
I wonder if people know, like, sometimes I look for people. Like, I wonder, like, is so-and-so here? And as I'm preaching, I'm, like, scanning the audience, looking at them, like, I don't know where they're at. Or
you make, like, unconscious eye contact with someone when you make a point that will especially either hit with them or not. Yeah. And you kind of accidentally look at them, and then you're like, oh, I don't want to look at them and make them think I'm talking about them.
I intentionally try not to look to people if I'm worried that they think it's about them. Because like the number one rule I learned this pretty early on in student ministry because I got burned by this is you don't preach to an individual, otherwise it'll go bad. So if I feel like any example or topic I have may be too close to home for someone, I let the Holy Spirit deal with them, but I don't look at them because I don't want them to even think it's about them. So anyways, hey, so it's just you and me, Jeff. Some people might know this is that like I've known you for a long time. We went to Bible college together. We just have so much history, and we did a lot of ministry together. I often joke that we would be like, you would be Chris Tomlin, and I would be
Louis.
What's
Giglio.
That guy's name? The guy from Louis Giglio. I would be Louis Giglio. And anyways, we did a T-shirt printing company. Yeah, we did a T-shirt printing company. And
were we in each other's weddings? You weren't in my wedding. Was I in your wedding?
Yeah, you were in my wedding.
I was.
Yep,
I know I was at your wedding
because you got married. You were in my wedding, but you were.
I got married like 6 months before we met.
Before we met,
so like we didn't. Yeah, I didn't know that I hadn't met my best man yet.
There you go. That's sweet. Yeah. That's such a diss to the person who was actually your best man.
Yeah. Shout out.
But I mean, there's some fun memories. I mean, there's been countless concerts, Christian hip hop concerts, Christian metal concerts, where we were selling T-shirts together. And when we did Sacrament Media, it was such a cool thing because it literally was like such a spawn of like nerdy Bible college kids learning.
Oh yeah,
like. Literally ancient truths or like church history and thinking this would be a cool metal shirt. Like one of our most popular shirts that we made was Luther, and it said like "Here I stand, I can do no other." Right?
Yeah.
Like that shirt. I'm trying to think. There was a couple.
I think
other
it said
shirts.
"I cannot recant."
I cannot recant. That's what it was. It was based on the same moment or whatever. There was just a bunch of just like. Yeah, it was this dope stuff that we made, led to dope conversations, really interesting opportunities. The fact that you and I both know KB, and he's like one of the biggest Christian hip hop artists around, and like he was like we were just throwing shirts at him, and he would just wear it on stage, and it was so we like
and
designed.
He'd wear it on stage,
shirts.
and the ink would like come off the shirt as he was wearing it because we didn't know what we were doing.
Yeah, for real. But man, it was just so many fun memories. But there was also like some fun non-ministry memories. You were saying offline that it's like the annual anniversary of something really dumb that
we were in a worship band together too, the Reprise.
The Reprise.
Well, before that, we were in the Trinity College band, chapel band together too.
Yeah.
And then we were in the Reprise.
The best band Trinity College ever produced. Even though,
I don't know.
Chris Cootie
was there. That was pretty good.
He wrote a good song. Yeah. Okay, but yeah. So what was we were driving? What happened?
Yeah. Well, we had. I don't remember if I had the potato cannon before I knew you or not, but we had a potato cannon, and our little band got hired to go lead worship at. Remember our bass player Bob Dross, like high school or something. It was like 2 hours away, and it was a Christian school. And we were driving there that day, and it was you and me and Bob and Chad Corey in the car. And we were driving back on one of the kind of back roads back across the state of Florida, which if you've never been there, there's a lot of cows. There's a lot of just 2-lane roads with, post fences with barbed wire with cows. And we were bored, and we had a potato gun in the car because, of course, we did. And we decided to shoot it out the window, driving about 60 miles an hour down the road to see if we could hit a cow. And that video lives on Facebook, as well as there's a video. I don't know if you remember this, but we were at a church in Tampa that had a gym that kind of was set up like House of Blues. Remember that?
Oh, and Oakwood. I think it was called
Oakwood. Yeah. And this is on video. And I went up and I grabbed a basketball. I went up a stairwell. Went on the landing of the stairwell, and this is when Robin Big was a popular thing, and everybody was starting to do trick shots. And I really just first try grabbed a basketball, went up in a stair landing, like probably 50, 60 feet away from the basketball hoop, and just threw the ball, and it went in first try. And you were filming. It was amazing. I should submit that to some kind of Dude Perfect contest because it'd probably be pretty good.
Yeah, I mean the quality.
That's another fun memory, and that was on like. That was like a Tuesday morning. We were there because we were scouting the place out to do a concert.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, that video is probably recorded in 140p, but like still.
Yeah.
We probably could like trend somewhere.
Still awesome.
It was still awesome. Yeah, I mean, the potato cannon is for sure illegal, but the Statute of Limitations is like, it was 15 years ago or something. Yeah. But
we didn't actually hit a cow, so I mean.
Yeah. I mean, I often think about like, man, there were so many fun memories just being like a college kid with no responsibilities and like just like very, very part-time church responsibilities.
Yeah.
And being able to like just travel and do stupid stuff but like also do like I remember that school we went to and we were probably maybe I'm self-inflating my mind in this, but like we were probably the best worship gig that they've probably had at that school ever because it just seemed like it was a pretty stiff school, you know what I'm saying?
For sure we had, I mean, I don't know much, I haven't been at the school in a long time, but in the years right after we left, I don't think they had a group of guys that were as tight of friends as we were in the little worship band that we had. So, that really like we had chemistry that I don't know that they had, after that because we were all not only were we all playing because at Trinity, if you're in the worship major, you play in the chapel band to get part credit.
Yeah.
And that year, those 2 or 3 years, it was just a group of us that were all like buddies. We all just hung out and played music together, and it just so happened we played at our school too.
Yeah.
So that made it all the more fun because it was like we already had that chemistry.
I'm just thinking about like there were some fun times where we like this. We did some.
Oh,
cool
I'm thinking
covers.
of all the crazy stuff that happened in rehearsal too, when we'd yell at each other and get mad at each other.
Dude, you're thinking of this like the fight we had because someone couldn't stay on tempo.
Yeah,
and like we're like
no, they were playing the wrong chord, and I was looking at their hand. I was watching a guy's hand play the wrong chord, and I was like, "Bro, that's an F. You need to play F sharp." And he was like, "Why you only get on me?" And I, in my anger, I was like, "Because you're the only one that makes mistakes." That's so rude, so wrong.
We were. I don't know. Anyways, this podcast is probably boring to people, but it was such a good time, and I'm sure we all have these memories. But hey, you know where memories are made? At conferences as well. And so we are going to have the Practically Pastoring Conference. We have some fun memories last year of just really awesome times, wasting our time on the beach, hoping to catch a shark that we never got.
Yeah, shark fishing.
Shark fishing that just ended up getting like sand fleas or whatever. But it was so fun.
It was worth it, dude.
Yeah, and hanging out by that pool and eating amazing food and talking. And, the Sunday Cool guys showed up. I mean, there's so many fun memories that happened. And we're going to make new ones next year.
And for anybody that comes in not in the like hot humidity south of Florida, like it's a nice little break from winter in the middle of February.
It is. I'm looking forward to it already. It's getting chilly here. It's like in the 60s
It is getting chilly here. I'm really excited about it right now, but I know by the time we get to February, it's like bad. Christmas is over, it's just dark all the time and everything's gray and dead.
Yeah.
It's nice to go and have a little summer in the middle of February at the Practically Pastoring Conference.
February 20th to the 22nd, practicallypastoringconference.com. If you go there, if you want a promo code, you can DM me. But please know if you DM me, I will take a screenshot and show it to all the other guys, so that way I have full accountability and never be accused of anything.
Full accountability.
But yeah, I'm excited about it. February 22nd. We have a hotel that has a conference rate. So I'll be putting that on the website. It's going to be really exciting. And I believe one of our lower tier sponsors that we just received, that we're going to be able to give out something for free, is from I think it's She Reads Truth, right? Am I wrong in that? What was the thing that Tim sent us?
We should cut this part out, but I'm not sure. Let me go look at my text messages. Hang on.
But we're going to give out a book to someone from some organization that I think makes women's curriculum. It's not She Reads Truth.
It's something with Grace.
Grace Co. The Grace Co. or Grace.
Yes, that's right.
This
but
is terrible.
Shout out to She Reads Truth too. They make great stuff.
Shout out to all these are great, and we're going to be promoting
the Daily Grace Co.
Daily Grace Co. Man,
and we promise to actually be prepared for the conference.
Yeah,
unlike this,
I'm going to edit this out somehow.
I hope you do.
But anyways, go to practicallypastoringconference.com. We are excited. We hope to see you there, February 20th to the 22nd. All right. So I asked some questions in the Facebook group about what kind of questions do people want to know from us. We're taking questions, and we got 2 questions, and I should have asked earlier because I asked it last minute. One is really quick because it's not that important. Puffy or crunchy Cheetos? I have a strong opinion about this.
Okay, go for it.
I think Puffy's better.
Oh, we're on the same boat.
Yeah.
I like both.
Yeah.
I don't have to pick one or the other.
Yeah.
I mean, this is like asking me if I want, pumpkin spice or salted caramel in my coffee, and my answer is yes. Yeah. But I'll prefer pumpkin spice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, here's a I don't know if this is a Latin thing, a Hispanic thing, but everybody on that side of my family does this. Puffy Cheetos, squeeze a lime juice on top.
Oh.
Incredible.
Interesting.
So good. I know it sounds weird.
Never had it.
But if you think about it, one of my favorite snacks is the Fuego Takis, which also have the combination of cheese and lime. Right? Tacos, cheese and lime in them, usually good. So give it a try next time. You get some puffy Cheetos. I like the long ones, not the balls. Although the balls are good too, but the long ones. And every youth room has that gigantic plastic clear tin of cheese balls. I don't know why, but they do. But get the long puffy Cheetos and put them in a bowl and squeeze a bunch of lime juice on top and eat that and tell me if it's not amazing.
It might be amazing. It sounds good. But here's a question from CJ. He says, I have a vacation next week, first one in a couple years. What does your week prior to vacation look like, and how available are you during vacation? So I went on sabbatical for 3 weeks.
Which is technically June. Not a vacation, to be fair.
Not a vacation, but the prep work felt similar.
There's some.
And so I have some thoughts about this, but I want to hear your thoughts, because you are about to go on vacation, like you just said.
Oh, praise God! I am about to go on vacation. I'm about to go leaf peeping in Vermont. Now, I was going to look real quick. Leaf peeping?
Never heard of it.
That's when you travel somewhere just to watch the leaves change.
That's
what they call it. Okay. Does it sound weird to you? Because you're acting like it sounds weird to you.
Leaf peeping? I've never heard of that.
Yeah, leaf, like you're peeping at the leaves. Leaf peeping.
The image in my mind is just leaves are falling on the ground, and you're just picking up what does the underside look like? That's what it sounds like.
I mean, that's what my 7-year-old daughter does. So, no, what I do, so I always, well, I don't say always, but 80% of the time when I'm going to be out of town. Last year I went to Florida 5 times, so I went through this experience a lot. Not all of them for vacation, but like you said, the prep is the same, whether I'm leaving for a week because I have to go to a court date or something for foster care, or because I'm going on vacation. The prep to leave is the same. So as far as availability while I'm gone, I'll start there. I don't really notice a big difference between when I'm in Maryland and when I'm not. I don't know if that's just like a culture thing or because we have cell phones now, but I don't really notice a huge difference. And, I mean, when I'm on vacation with my family, one of the things I like about Vermont, where I stay, where we go to Vermont, there isn't great cell service, so it's kind of like taken care of for me because I just can't get to it. But I usually set my email with a auto answer when I'm going to be gone. We have Gmail for the church, so I just set that. And then my phone will just be on Do Not Disturb most of the time, and then at night after the kids are in bed and maybe I'm just kind of hanging out on vacation, I might check my phone to see if there's any emergencies. But frankly, my church has been, I think this is a church culture thing. I think if you're in a church that's a small church that's like totally dependent on you for all pastoral care, I think you got to change that culture. I think you got to make it to where people are okay with like one of the elders coming to visit them in the hospital. And my church is like that. I think that's partly because they were without a pastor for a year before I got here. So a couple of the elders just got used to doing that. Sometimes I find out someone's in the hospital and they've already been visited once or twice. And I find out after, and nobody's ever that I know of been mad at me for not knowing first. So that part of it is really not an issue for me, but I know guys that is an issue where like they feel like they have to be on 24/7 because if something happens, the pastor has to know. And, if that's you, I would just work on trying to empower some other leaders. But as far as like prepping before I leave, I do a lot of the like techie stuff at our church. So I manage the website and post the things on YouTube and all that. So I try to use, like for our social media, I use the Facebook business page a lot to schedule things. I usually will preach the Sunday morning and we will leave right after church. And I will almost always try to schedule my Sunday off that next Sunday so that I'm not thinking about prepping a sermon like for when I get back. I always try to preach and leave and have someone, if I'm going to have somebody cover one Sunday, I'm going to have them cover the Sunday after I get back, not the Sunday before I leave. I'd rather leave later on a Sunday night and not have a sermon coming while I'm on vacation. Some guys do it the other way. I don't know how they do it. Some guys will like leave and not be at church on Sunday and someone will preach, but then when they get back, they have to preach again. So I know I can prep ahead of time, but it's going to be in my mind. My mind just doesn't work that way. If I know I'm preaching on a Sunday coming, I'm thinking about it. So it doesn't matter if I've already, done the work or whatever. I'm going to be thinking about it, looking at it, tweaking it. This week I told my wife I probably changed a third of my sermon on Sunday morning before the service. So that's just how it is for me. And so, yeah, I'll schedule somebody to preach the week following when I return. So I'll leave on a Sunday. Like this time, we're leaving on Sunday afternoon. We're driving to the ski resort in Vermont. We'll get there Monday evening. I'll be there. We'll be there all week, and we'll get back home the next Sunday night. So I won't even be in Maryland on Sunday morning. So for me, the biggest the list of little things to cover is like all the passwords for getting into things like Spotify and whatever software you use for lyrics and Planning Center, and making sure all those little things are covered. I am actually, one of the projects I have for this week is to make like a little handbook for the tech booth. This maybe is more of a small church thing, but like, here's, push this button, turn this on. Here's the password for Spotify. Here's how you get this. The batteries are over here. Like all those little things that just sort of live in my head that I just know how to do at 8:30 on a Sunday morning before anybody's there yet at 9. You need to have, like, assume you get in a car accident and you're just out for weeks, or maybe, you leave or something and you have an emergency. How are people going to be ready? That's how you should prep for vacation. And honestly, it's a great thing. I mean, there's been multiple weeks now where I'm like, I've been so used to, in our small church, doing so many of those things on Sunday that since we've had a new influx of people and there's like a whole team of people now on Sunday, it's like, will be on Sunday morning like I don't have anything to do. And it's like, no, this is how it should be. I should just be able to just come here and prep and do a little prayer and walk around and say hi to people and get ready to preach. So that does happen to me now, and it's great. So I would just say make that, your priority, to kind of make it so that you're only doing what only you can do, right? I mean, we've all heard that. And just make that a culture thing. Give yourself some grace. It'll take some time, and people will no-show on you, and you have to know how to do stuff. But as much stuff as you can have written down, the better. Make yourself Google Docs. Even things like this. I have Google Docs of all the supplies that we need for communion. Like I have a weekly supply list for communion, and I split it into expendable and non-expendable. Expendable is stuff that we use up, and we want to make sure we have enough for 2 weeks all the time. And then non-expendables, like with communion, would be like the trays. And we replace stuff like that when it gets broken. So I have one like that for communion. I have another one for cleaning supplies. I have another one for coffee, Sunday morning supplies. We have one for children's church. And I print these off, and they have like check boxes, and I hang them in strategic spots for those particular ministries. And the people that run those ministries know at the end of the week, they go and check the boxes of the things that we need to buy. And then either myself or somebody goes on like Thursday or Friday and makes sure that we're supplied up. So doing those kind of things before you leave for vacation would be good too.
That's good. I know when I went on sabbatical, I guess what I did when I go on vacations, I try to meet strategically with all my key leaders. So like my worship leader, my connections person, my kids person. And so I think I have a regular schedule of like once a month for some and every other week for others. But I always have that week before my vacation to be a week where I meet with all of them. And I think even if right now you don't have a consistent practice of that, making sure you do that the week before you go on vacation, one, is like a soft version of pastoral care. You're like caring for them by like asking them how they're doing, how can you serve them. And almost I would say, I always ask this kind of question and say this, like, hey, how are you doing? How's your ministry? How can I help make your ministry easier or better? And is there anything you need from me that if I'm gone next week that you won't have access to me? What can I do for you this week? And typically we'll maybe walk through some conversations of like, well, like we just said, we're low on communion supplies. Okay, well, would you like me to make the order? Can I empower you to make the order? And we what are the things that we can do, that kind of stuff? And having those conversations ahead of time is like hyper helpful. Like I love what you said. We actually, because I service host, there is like a ton of, or not service, since I'm the campus pastor and I service host, there's like a bunch of things in my head that no one else has. Like what doors to unlock and lock.
Right.
Where like some light switches are not the most obvious of where they are.
Right.
If there's any passwords on air conditioning units, like all those type of different things that like, I have a Google Doc, but I kind of protect that doc, so only like certain people that needs to see it. And so like if I know on this Sunday these people are in the building, I'll share that doc with them and be like, hey, here's codes to doors, here's the doors I lock, here's the doors I unlock, all that kind of stuff. And that way, it might be, I'm sure the document you're making might actually be like oversharing things that people might already know even. But like having it on paper will be like a mental checklist for people to be able to go through and be like, oh, I know what door to unlock, but it's good that it's on this paper.
Yeah.
And so that stuff is helpful. And then here's the other side of that question. Jeff said, you said that where you are going has bad self-service, so it kind of like helps you not have to deal with like work stuff while you're on vacation. Is, you know, I go on Google Calendar first and I make sure that it says I'm unavailable through that week. I go to Gmail and I put an away message, so it always says like, someone emails me, it'll come back saying, hey, Frank's on vacation, but please reach out to so-and-so and so-and-so if you have any questions or emergencies. And we kind of have a system here where, like, if someone from church calls you or texts you while you're on vacation, you just don't respond. Like, it's kind of, I mean, if you want to be courteous and say you're on vacation, you can. But, like, you just don't do that for your own personal boundary and your own personal, like, whatever. But if there is an emergency, whoever is on your away message, like that person will make the decision to call you or not. So that way, if you do get a phone call while you're on vacation, if it's from this one person,
you know it's important. Yeah,
you should answer it. You know what I'm saying? Like your church is on fire or something like that. But other than that, like even like hospital visits and stuff like that, like that'll go to other pastors on staff, and people for the most part will understand. Like, oh, Pastor Frank's on vacation. I understand why they're not around. Like,
people that are mature will reprioritize the thing they thought was so important.
Yeah. If
they're like, oh, I need to talk to the pastor about this, and then they find out you're on vacation, mature people will be like, you know what? It can wait till he gets back.
Yeah. That's good.
I would say it like this. Like, as far as the Sunday morning, like, prepping your team so they're ready, you want to set them up for success so that when you get back from vacation, it's like they didn't notice you were gone that much.
That's good.
Like, that should be kind of a goal in your mind. Like, you get back from vacation, like, how was it? And they're like, oh, everything was smooth. That's what you want. You don't want you come back and then be like, oh, my gosh, 8 things didn't work, the live stream didn't work, and
never
then we couldn't
again.
Get the microphones.
Yeah.
And you're now frustrated because you're like, why don't you know this stuff? And the reality is they don't know because you didn't tell them.
Yeah.
I mean, it's down to little things. Like yesterday, I know this is so minute and minutia, but we got a new mop bucket. And I didn't think to show the person how to use it. Yeah. And so they were using it completely wrong, or they weren't utilizing it for what it could have done, and it was making the floors super wet. They weren't drying. That volunteer is now frustrated, and all it took was for me to show them, oh, no, this thing spins, and that's how you use it, and so it works really good. And they were like, oh. So it's just a matter of, over-communicate,
Where are the trash bags? Where are the paper towels?
Exactly.
Where's the toilet paper? Like things that we know, but most people who come on Sunday morning don't. And so if you over communicate that,
if you have particular things that need to happen a particular way, like you said, paper towels, we have real specific paper towels that go in our little paper towel holders. If I don't specify those ones, I'll come back and there'll be paper towel rolls everywhere.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's annoying. And so just specify, if it's something that really matters, and specify. And I would say maybe have 1 or 2 extra people on the team the week you're gone.
That's good.
Maybe even create a spot on your team for kind of like a almost like you would have a service host. Yeah. Maybe have a service prep MC who's kind of like the point person for overseeing everything and maybe train that person. And then, what might happen is when you get back from vacation, you might have a way easier time on Sunday mornings if that person wants to keep doing that, which would be awesome.
Yeah, whether it's an elder or a deacon, I think it's wise to have a point person. Whatever question you would ask me as a pastor, ask this person. This is the person you go to. And kind of make everyone aware of it. I think the more I think about it, I've been doing this practice here for a while, but to ask the question, what does your week before look like in preparation for vacation? You should be thinking
it should be regular, yeah.
It should be start working with your people a month in advance, so that way people already know this stuff. So that the week before is literally just a debrief. Okay, I'm leaving next week. Is there anything that's still up in the air that you don't know about? And some of these other questions have already been settled with. But
I would say too, as far as the service itself, don't make the week you're gone the like complicated service with a bunch of moving parts.
Yeah.
I would make it a regular average. There's going to be 4 songs and a couple prayers and a message from somebody within our church. Don't make that the week you invite 4 missionaries to come speak with their own PowerPoint presentations, and they go long, and what do we do? And so that's another thing to think about with that.
Or child dedications, baptisms.
Yeah.
Like,
don't do that
like
stuff
things
while
that
you're
are
gone.
like, that's good. Everyone goes on vacation, Lord willing. Everyone goes away, and these discussions are important. Yeah, and you should. Yeah, you should take. If you have 3 weeks of vacation or 2 weeks, of
take
vacation,
all of it.
Take every single day. There's 2 things that like I have a rule in ministry. I have a book budget in my church. I forgot what the number is, but it's like a certain dollar amount I could buy for books, for commentaries and stuff like that. Spend every dollar. Like at the end, before the end of the year, make sure you bought every book that you wanted to buy or can buy. And then secondly, take every vacation day. Don't you not going on vacation isn't saving your church money. Like you going on vacation is burning you out. So
and you not going on vacation isn't you being tough; it's you being foolish.
Yeah,
go on vacation.
It's better to do the hard work between 9 to 5 to prep for your vacation than to not go on vacation and just keep working. Like it's good. Go on vacation. Hey, one more thing I want to talk about. There's an article that came out in religion news that you sent me, Jeff.
Religious nudes? What?
That's not what I said. If anything, I said religious news, but it's religion news. The Lord blessed me with a fat tongue. I don't know. All right, so, and my lights went off. All right, so it's interesting because I actually have a lot of opinions on this. So the title said Jehovah's Witnesses to return to door knocking, a sign of a new COVID-19 stage. And so everyone knows the Jehovah's Witnesses who knock on your doors to tell you about what the Watchtower says about Jesus and all that kind of stuff. Everyone has experienced this. Everyone has different reactions to it. But during COVID, they stopped doing it. But what was interesting is we were talking about this offline is we've had the same experience, so this must be like a national thing or worldwide. I don't know, but at least a national thing. Instead of knocking on doors, they've been writing letters. But Jeff, what's interesting about these letters that kind of creep me out is they write my name. Yeah. And they know my name, and it's handwritten. So every time I get a letter, I'm like, oh, who wrote me a note? And it's the Jehovah's Witnesses. And my thing is, how do they know my name? Like, how do they know my name? And they must have access to some sort of database that knows that I live at this place. And so that kind of creeps me out that they have that kind of access.
Well, to that. I mean, it's public record. It's not like it's a secret.
But how do you get that?
4.9 thousand people on Facebook also know your name. So, I mean.
But not my address.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
That's the part. It's like they know my name to my address. That's the part I'm kind of like unusual. And there has to be a database. Like
there is. It's public record. Yeah.
But I know like when we do mailers, like for like the church, it'll probably say current resident or something like that. But like I don't know. It's just I thought that was really interesting that they have access to some sort of database that I'm unaware of. And I'm not even saying I want that database. I'm saying that's weird. It feels weird. But I read it, and one thing I kept thinking about was the way my letter was written was, Frank, you're probably distressed with the news and the coming on TV with COVID-19 and all the stuff that's happening. You're probably wondering if there's any hope. Well, let me tell you about the hope we found in God or something. And my thing is, it's like, you don't know me. First off, how do you know my name? And you don't know me. You don't know anything about me. I'm just really confused as to how they got this information and all the assumptions that they're making based on this thing. But based on this article, the Jehovah's Witnesses are returning to door knocking. It looks like that they have made a decision to do that. There was like a court appeal for them to be able to do that because I think there was some states that were prohibiting to do that, and they said that it would violate their First Amendment right to protect free speech, and it went against like prohibiting them from doing that. Went against
it's like part of their religious doctrine too, right? Yeah,
and so I mean, I guess one thing I wanted to ask you 2 questions, or one's a question and one is like just a thought. The thought is, as much as like I believe Jehovah's Witnesses have a wrong gospel, like they don't believe in the Jesus of the scriptures. Their scriptures have been corrupted. I can
They're
talk
not
about
historic Orthodox Christianity.
that. Correct. And so, like, besides that, I always feel like them and the Mormons have this, like, unique sense of, like,
Mission.
duty to their faith that, like, I so admire. You know, like these, like, I know, though they weren't door knocking, what they have been doing is standing on street corners in certain cities with, like, their pamphlets and stuff like that. And, like, they're not necessarily tapping people's shoulders, asking them to come talk to them. They're just kind of quietly waiting. There's something about their, like, faithfulness. And maybe you could say it's legalism. Maybe you could say it's off compulsion. But, like, this organization has convinced people to go door to door to share their faith. And that's, like, pulling teeth in most evangelical churches, you know? So, I don't know. I've always admired that. So, I don't know. Take that with what you will. But my question to this is, they're returning to knocking now in this stage of after COVID-19 or in COVID-19. And I guess my question to you is, there's a lot of things that we have to shift and change for the past 2 years, but is there anything coming back that you're like, okay, we're in this new change, this new place, we're bringing this back that we haven't done since, you know, late 2019, early 2020?
Well, I will say this, too, about the Jehovah's Witnesses. They're going to be talking into a lot of Ring cameras.
Yeah,
for sure. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
A lot of people are just going to not answer their door.
Yeah.
What things are we bringing back? I mean, for us, I don't know that there was a ton of stuff that we stopped doing during COVID that we're not going to bring back. The only thing I can think of is passing plates during the service. We have totally switched now to either online texting or the box on the back wall. And that's the only thing that's really changed. But as far as things that we're starting to do again is like more outreach things. Like we just started doing movie nights, outdoor movie nights again because it got nice and cool. In-person stuff. Potlucks are back on the schedule, or family feasts as I call them because we don't believe in luck. But those are back on the schedule for every fifth Sunday. So we have one in October coming up. We didn't have those for a while with COVID. And then like my class tonight, you know, those kind of things are back at our church. So, but as far as evangelism goes, I do think the critique I would make of the Jehovah's Witnesses that they are making a particular method of evangelism like the doctrine itself. Whereas, you know, I feel like for us, we're saying, evangelism is central. And we can have a conversation about how serious we are about it. But we don't like make a particular method the thing that we, you know, will go to court about. So, you know, that would just be a critique of one critique of Jehovah's Witnesses. But I can't think of anything like real particular that it's like, ooh, we should start doing this again. Other than the things that were just normal part of our discipleship. Part of that for us is because when I came, you know, our church is in this redeveloping status. So I made all those kind of changes before COVID even hit, where it was like we were making a big shift in culture. So it's just we're bringing back the in-person stuff even more now in these last, 6 months or 8 months or whatever. What about you guys?
The two biggest areas for sure has been how we do communion and our greeting. So what I mean by that is I think like a lot of churches, we started buying.
We have changed those too. Now that you say it, it reminds me. So
the communion to go stuff. I mean, no one liked it. No,
hated it.
There's no person that's like, I got the good brand. Like it's all gross.
Yeah, but nobody opens it and is like, ooh, the one that sticks to the roof of my mouth. Yes.
So we test piloted. So here's the issue I think we're facing. The way we used to do communion was in tinction, which is where you get we have like, I think, a bunch of sourdough bread. I think it was sourdough bread. And they cut it up in chunks, pre-cut up, and then people would grab a chunk and then they would dip it in a shared chalice, which is always makes me nervous because Milwaukee's very Catholic. And so I'm always worried that someone's just going to grab the chalice and take a sip from it. But no one does that. The worst thing that happens is that people dip a little too much and their fingers get dipped in there. But I know it's pretty gross. And so immediately we're like, oh, actually, I remember the first Sunday.
Or a fork.
The first Sunday when COVID kind of hit the country. It was like in March or whatever when we were getting nervous about it. And it was like the week before the shutdown. The last live service, I led communion. Yep. And I remember we were prepping and we were like talking about, do you think COVID's going to affect communion moving forward? and I made a joke, and I said, the Holy Spirit protects us from all germs. That was ignorant. I should have never said that or whatever.
Some people thought you were serious.
They probably still think they're probably quoting me right now. Frank said, the Holy Spirit protects you from germs. But I think one thing that I feel convicted by moving forward is like, we probably won't go back to intinction, but I would love to go back to. I've seen some churches do it this way, where they'll have like individual plastic cups of the juice of the cup, and then they'll have the same cups. They'll have the chunk of bread in there, and you just get like the pair, right?
You stack them, yeah.
Or you stack them, right? Depending on how.
Yeah, I think Delmar actually told us about that.
Yeah. And I was like, that's the way we should do it. Like, that's the way, because that way you can have better bread and better juice. But we test piloted intinction again at one of our campuses where they had intinction and they had the communion to go, and they said it was like 50-50, but there were some people who were very vocal against intinction. I don't know what we're going to do with that. All I know is that we will go back to a more of a traditional way of doing communion than the prepackaged stuff, but I don't know what we're going to do. The other thing is our worship pastor, the global one who oversees all campuses, desperately wants us to go back to greeting one another in the beginning of the service. We used to do it between the first and second song, or that's my doorbell.
It's a Jehovah's Witness.
Yeah, for real. We actually did it between not the first and second song, but I just got what you just said. It was a Jehovah's Witness. It wasn't. Or it was the greeting after the announcements before the sermon. We used to do a greeting. And we stopped doing it for a long time. But the worship pastor, when he would lead, he would like sneak it in there, like between songs. He'd be like, hey, greet the person next to you or whatever. And then this past Sunday, and it was a part of my sermon. In the beginning of the service, in the beginning of my sermon, I encourage people to greet someone next to them. At the end of my sermon, the reason why I told them to do that is because I wanted people to know the names of the people next to them, to see them as brothers and sisters in Christ, and not just people who happen to share the same space as you. So it was tied to my message. And I'm hoping maybe that this will be the beginning of, hey, let's just bring back greetings, because it's just a thing that, like, I don't know, it's sweet. I know Tim brought it back a couple weeks ago. I think Andrew said he's doing it. So I'm sure Delmar never stopped doing it. so I mean,
well, one thing we did that you could have done or you could do in different situations, and this is what we do with our giving now that we don't pass offering plates or anything. We just have a spot in the service where, I would just encourage people to think about doing little creedal moments, little, catechistic sort of moments where we have a little statement, a little proclamation that we make between the last 2 or 3 songs about giving. And it just, basically is like, we respond to our Father who has provided everything for us by giving. We do this as an act of worship and as an acknowledgement of his provision for us. Something like that acknowledges that moment. And we were doing that for a while with greeting as well. Before we were greeting again, we would have some kind of statement of like, we're part of a body of faith. We believe in the community of saints, and we see each other as brothers and sisters. So it kind of filled that void of acknowledging that we live in community with one another. But I've said this a bunch of times, I know, but we're still doing communion at the end of the service. So I'm actually thinking about flipping the service again, real kind of drastically. But what we do now is we'll have a song or a call to worship, or a call to worship and then a song, and those are usually call and response, and then a couple more songs, a prayer time. This week we showed like a 4-minute missions video from our denomination, and then the sermon, and then at the end of the sermon we proclaim the mystery of faith. Christ has died, Christ has risen, Christ will come again. And then I will invite people to stay for communion if they are part of part of a church in good standing. And I explain that during the next 5 minutes or so, you can greet one another, catch up, talk to one another, see how you can pray for one another. Our kids are going to come back into the sanctuary. They're going to sit with their parents. During this time, you can go to the back of the room and pick up the bread and the juice for communion, and then I'll call us back together. And if I have a couple announcements, I'll do them then. And then we take communion. Communion is the very last thing we do before we are sent out, and then I will speak like a formal benediction over the congregation. So yeah, that's how we've been doing it. We're thinking about switching things back up, but frankly, new people have all been really positive about that order of service. That's kind of something I've never really seen before. And our people really like it. They like the fact that the greeting time doesn't feel rushed, because I can, like, if they're still greeting, it doesn't matter. I can let them go another 3-4 minutes if they want to. I don't have to, like, call them back together, because it's not part of the, like, public service. Like, the live stream has ended and everything just gets a lot more informal at that time. And part of that is, we are a small church. We're not going to be big and formal. That's just who we are. So that's been real positive for us.
Well, that's good. Well, hey, I want to hear more from people. If you have brought something back, let's share it. Tell us in the Facebook group. Put it in the comments somewhere. We want to know, what have you brought back that you had to put to a side during COVID. You've brought it back. What is that thing, and how's it going? How are people responding to it? All right. Hey, well, thanks for chatting with me and Jeff. Thanks for listening. We even just the two of us, we were able to talk for about an hour. But hey, we want to hear from you. Join our Facebook group. Follow us on Instagram. All the things. Follow Jeff and I personally on our Instagram. We would love to have you there. And yeah, we hope to hear from you. With that said, we also want to see you this February 2023, the 20th to the 22nd at is it Newport Richie or is it Trinity?
Trinity, at the newly renovated Lakeview Church.
The newly
Looks
renovated,
amazing.
Excuse Tarpon Springs. It's going to be in Florida. We can't wait to see you there.
The greater Tampa area.
Yeah, Tampa Bay area. Yeah. Yeah, Tampa is a city. Tampa Bay is
the
like
727.
Tampa Bay is like basically all Central Florida to some degree. But hey, we can't wait to see you there. Go to the conference, PracticallyPastoringConference.com. With that being said, it's going to be really short. I'm Frank Gill.
I'm Jeff Simpson.
And that's everybody. We'll see you next week. Bye.
Later.
Thanks for listening. Get connected to other pastors by joining the Practically Pastoring Facebook group, where we get to share ideas and make each other better.